about how this wedding occurred. The fake wedding that Lavan made, he switched the two girls, Rachel and Leah. You married one, but you got the other, right? It's like a big scam. So Yaakov Avinu got scammed. And the interesting thing is, though, they say, right, that night, when he actually, went with Leah, the first night, what happened was that in the morning he wakes up and he sees that it's Leah. So he asks her, he says, how did you trick me like this? What did you do to me? How did you agree to this? Okay, I know your father is a crook, he's a thief, he's a gangster, lowlife. Okay, I know, but what about you? You're not like that. So how could you agree to pull this trick on me like this, So she says, he tells her like this, says, don't you know that it's improper to impersonate somebody else, and do this kind of stuff, to be an imposter like this? So you know what she answers him. Like, you have to, by the way, you have to be careful. From here you learn one thing. When you start an argument with a Jewish girl, you never know where you're going to wind up. She could beat you, pretty easily. So don't think you're going to outsmart her. So what did she tell her? What was the answer? Real Jewish girl answer. What is that? Tells him, says, I heard that you did the same thing. He said, she tells him, she says, you went to your father and you impersonated Esav, and it was really, and you took the brachot like this, the blessings. So he said, I'm not any worse than you. Just like you did to your father, I did to you. That's what she tells him. Says, what do you think about, what's the problem? He was like, he couldn't say, flabbergasted. He couldn't say anything. He knew that he was beat over there with this answer. So she tells him, you're just like, I'm just like you. Whatever you did. But by the way, as we said last week, what happened was that the reason they were able to pull off the scam was because that Rachel gave the simanim. There were certain signs that they had between Rachel and Yaakov in order that the scam shouldn't be pulled. Because they knew, right, that there was going to be some kind of scam. They were expecting it. Yaakov was expecting a scam. Rachel was expecting a scam. Everybody was expecting a scam. So what happened was that in the end, he said, you know what, in order to avoid the scam, I'll give you signs. So this way, that night, when I'm going to be together with you, you give me back those signs, and this way I'll know it's you. Then there shouldn't be any problems. So what she did was, once Rachel saw that she wasn't being given over in the wedding, and Leah was being given over, so she gave the simanim to Leah as a wedding gift. Let's put it this way, right? What does that mean? That she didn't want her to be embarrassed. In order to avoid shaming her, that she should go in there, and be thrown out. Some kind of a cat, you throw in the street, get out of here. That's what's going to happen. So in order to avoid that, she
Yaakov Avinu, you don't understand there's a different woman.
Well, they were sisters, by the way. So they really looked probably very similar, and also it was very dark in those days. There was no electricity, no nothing.
But the voice is not the same voice.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because one of the reasons why everybody have different voice is because of that.
Right, but the truth is, that, by the way, one thing you have to learn from my friend David, that it's possible to imitate any voice that you can do any voice you want. Once he knows the guy, he can imitate any voice that you want. So it is possible to imitate voices. He's a professional at that. He can do you also. Believe me. Once he hears you for a couple of minutes, he'll do you too. That's the way it was also with.
I'll work on you tonight.
I'm joking, but it's really true. I'm telling you, he can do it. He knows how to do it. So
how dark is going to be?
In those days, it was like pitch dark, like they and by the way, also there's a halakha, the halakha says that a person, when he lives with his wife, he's not allowed to have a candle, even one candle on, he's not allowed to have.
Yeah.
Understand?
Really?
Yeah. In the bedroom, during the act that they do, even one candle he cannot light. So what has to be? It has to be like really dark. There can be some indirect light coming in from a different room, like a little bit, like a little bit.
Reason behind that, or?
Yeah, there's a big reason for it. There's a big reason for it. You know what the reason is? It says in the Gemara that if you have relations with your wife and there's a light in the room, so the children could turn out epileptic. It's called right. And in Hebrew it's called nichpeh. Nichpeh means epileptic. Like epileptic seizures. Like they fall on the ground. Like this. So they say that this is caused by the fact that you live with your wife. And if she got impregnated during that, time that you were with her, so it could cause that epilepsy. By the way, if you think that this is like some kind of a joke, whatever, I can tell you something interesting. That one time, when we were kids, we were at the Yom Kippur. We weren't praying here. This shul wasn't built yet, so we were praying over there in the Sephardic Jewish Center on 108th Street. That place over there. That circus over there. So what happened was that we were there on Yom Kippur, and I was there with my relative, one of my relatives. You know what I'm talking about, bookbinder.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, in the middle of the Yom Kippur prayers, he faints on the floor. Just falls on the floor. Collapses.
I remember that.
You were there?
The Rabbi?
Yes, I was there.
You were really there? Unbelievable. Anyway, so this is a true story.
You don't remember what they did with us? They rented that huge room.
Right.
And they threw us in there like animals.
Cattle.
Like cattle. There was no ventilation, no nothing. And that's what they
That's
blamed it
interesting.
on, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So anyway, what happens is that a bookbinder, he fell on the floor. So we thought, that maybe because he didn't eat, he was weak, so he fainted. That's what we thought.
Yeah, that's what everybody said.
Yeah. But it really wasn't that. It was a seizure that occurred. You understand? This is what happened. So this is something that really occurs. And sometimes what happens is that when you have extreme situation where you don't eat, it can bring it on. Like a seizure, like that. It can bring it on. So because of that, this is actually something fairly common that people are born with epilepsy. And it's really, I don't think there's a cure for it yet. I don't know if the doctor can tell us, but I don't think there is a cure yet for epilepsy. Medication, yeah. There are some things that can, maybe slow it down, whatever. But it's actually a very, very problematic thing.
I worked with someone.
Yeah. So, this is what happens. And they usually have it like once a year or twice a year they have one, a seizure like that. And by the way, it's very dangerous because you can have it where he's driving. Can you imagine something like that? He's driving in the car on the road. All of a sudden he faints something in the car. You can have a big accident. This is what happens. So anyway, the point is, the Talmud says that because of that, a person has to, live with his life in the dark. So therefore, it must have been right that room was pitch dark when they were together. Now the truth is, I must tell you that there is a caveat to this, to this rule. What's a caveat? That actually, regarding the first night that you're with your wife, the wedding night, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about the wedding night. There's actually a dispute in the poskim, right, whether you're allowed to put the lights on or not. There are some who say the first night you're allowed to put the lights on.
Just to make sure it's the right
Something
like that.
It's a good one. I like that. Good. The first night, right? You guys got the matzah, right? So what's the difference between the first night and the other night? So says the Ben Ish Chai Shalom. He says that it's allowed to put the lights on. Ben Ish Chai, big rabbi. So says the Ben Ish Chai it's allowed. So the question is why? So he says the reason is because there's a rule, the Chazal say, right, that the woman can't get pregnant from the first intercourse that they have, the wedding night. It's not possible to get pregnant. What are we talking about? Let me explain this to what I mean to say, right? Don't jump on me yet, right? Let me first explain.
It's written in the Betula.
We're a little too old, all
Right.
of us, to hear this now.
Very nice.
Betula.
Yeah, good memory. Very, very
I
good.
wish you would have taught me this earlier.
By the way, so what's the reason about that?
I was in the
The
bathroom.
reason is because
Another Betula comes.
we're assuming, though, right? We're making here an assumption, right? You know what they say? When you assume, you make a, So the question is, what assumption are we making? That the girl is a virgin, which in our times is often not the case, right? When you marry a girl who's 18 and above, it could very well be that she's not a virgin already. What I'm saying is that if the girl is a virgin, okay, and she still has a hymen in her, so what happens is that the hymen prevents the sperm from shooting in there. Understand? And because of that, this is what stops from the first intercourse from having a pregnancy. Because the Chazal say also another rule, right, in the Talmud, which is what? That the only way that a woman can get pregnant is by the sperm shooting in. If it just drips, there's no pregnancy. You can't get pregnant by dripping. It has to be shot. You gotta shoot. So because of that, the hymen, prevents that from happening. That's what happens. You understand? So that would mean that what? That if a girl is already not a virgin, then it would be possible to impregnate her the first time. There's no question about that. Or it also could be that she is a virgin, but her hymen broke. And that happens often. Hymen breaks.
How it happened to Yaakov Avinu that Reuven?
Good question. We're going to get to that, right? I want to make that point also, right, Shalom? So the point is, right, like this, that I'm going step by step, to explain the whole thing. So what's the story? The story is that the hymen sometimes breaks even without intercourse. What's an example? Let's say if a girl goes and rides on a horse, right? So the riding on the horse, because of the jumping and this and that, it could break her. There are certain things like that. Or also maybe she stuck something in there like a pen or something, a pencil, whatever. Excuse the whatever. She put something in there, tube. Whatever,
So you were in the bathroom, probably.
Yeah. So in all these cases, she could be broken. And by the way, what happens also sometimes is just because of the age, just as the time goes, she's already like 18 years old, because really in those days they used to get married when they were like 12, 13, was the marriage age in those days. Now we're talking about 18 plus, right? We're up 18 and up. So because of that, usually like what happens is that at the age of 18 already, many of them are already just broken from natural, stress. Like, stretching, just not, whatever. So because of that, if there is a hymen, apparently it's not possible to impregnate the woman. If there is a hymen, if there is not a hymen, so definitely it is possible. Absolutely. So the question is like this now. This girl, right, Leah, obviously she was a virgin. She was a tzaddikat. She wasn't going around with guys, right, going to discotheques. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about a girl like that. We're talking about a girl who was the ultimate tzaddikat, right? So because of that, but we know, as we said last week, that really she got pregnant the first night, right? Because Reuven, the first son came from that intercourse that occurred on the first night, as we know, right? And we discussed how that caused blemish in his character, because he came from that intercourse. There was a blemish also that occurred. Right, there was a blemish on Reuven because he came from that first intercourse. I'll explain it again, just to kiss whatever. These guys didn't hear it; they weren't there. So David was the only one, I think, and our friend over here to hear it also heard. But anyway, the point is, so the question is, how did if this is the case, right? We just described the whole issue here. How is it that Leah got pregnant the first night? So the answer is, right, that the Talmud says that even though in general it's not possible to impregnate her, but if you know how to do it, there is a trick. You have to know how to have the proper technique. You understand? So what technique? There are guys. We're talking Gemara here, Jimmy. This is not.
Right. There's a big machlokas.
Yeah.
That was the whole machlokas. If you're allowed, the question is if you're allowed to make a wedding on Friday night. And the machlokas.
Very good.
That was the machlokas that they're allowed to make a Friday night, but they are not allowed to be together because it's
very nice. So says Shmuel in the Gemara. He says, I know how to impregnate a woman on the first night. I know how to do it. The teacher says Shmuel, right? One of the Amoraim. Big rabbi, right? So he was a doctor also, by the way. He was a doctor. He was a rabbi and a doctor, both of us. He had both of us inside of him, you understand? So Shmuel says, I know how to do it. So how did they do it? There was a way that they went around the hymen. Right, around, exactly. Like you make a curveball. Instead of throwing a fastball, you throw a curveball, you understand? Slider. You throw a slider, and you get in there. You understand? There's a way to get in there if you know how to do it. So because of that, Yaakov Avinu Lichora, if Shmuel knew, Yaakov Avinu for sure he knew. So therefore he was able to impregnate her on the first night. You understand? So because of that, you shouldn't feel ashamed, by the way. We don't censor the Torah.
No,
Torah is
it's not.
It's all holy.
I'm going to give you the same machlokas and I gave the rabbi. Okay? If you know how to do it, how many times you have to practice to throw the curveball to get it perfect?
Okay.
How many times you have to practice here? Because according to everybody...
Well, Jimmy, this question is a very interesting question, but let's not get into it now.
Let's not get into it.
I just want to explain just the general idea, you understand? I don't want to get into all the details. For that we have to start a Gemara class, Jimmy.
We did. When I started with him, I remember by heart.
So we have to start a Gemara class, we'll get into that sugya over there. There's other Shem. So, anyway, about that. The whole point was that he knew how to throw the slider, the curveball, so he got in there and he impregnated her. But what happens is like this, right? That because Reuven came from that union the first night, he turned out blemished.
But here comes another question. Why did he have to throw a curveball? Why couldn't he just go in? It's his wife. Everything is legal.
Because this way she won't get pregnant like that. You understand? The only way to impregnate her is by going around.
I understand, but...
Roundabout way. You understand? Okay, it's the whole story. Anyway, right? This is not the time for that. Right? We can't get into the whole technical issues over here. Right? We can do some demonstrations afterwards. Maybe it was the show. No, right? Demonstrations. Okay. So, I'm joking. So, anyway, getting back to what we're saying. So, Reuven turned out blemished. So, we already mentioned last week, right, that the reason he turned out blemished was because this is right, it says in the Talmud that there is 9 ways that a child can turn out blemished by the way that parents have intercourse together. 9 ways, right? These are called the Benet Tisha Midot, right? It's called, right? It's 9 ways that you can mess up, botch up your children, right? So what's one of them? One of them is that when you're going with one lady and you're thinking about somebody else. You understand? So this is what happened over here. That he was going with Leah, but he was thinking about Rachel because he thought it was Rachel. You understand?
She can be thinking about some other man.
That's also true. Yeah, that do the same damage. Yeah. Same thing. Same problem. So what happens is, by the way, these things are very, very deep, you should know. They go very, very deep. If I tell you all the depths of these things, it'll cause you to shake. It'll make you quake. Okay, so anyway, the point is, Rabbi, that Reuven turned out to be blemished because of that. There was a blemish that came in him. And because of that, he was the only one out of the tribes that really sinned. He was the only one who sinned. All the other tribes, they did not sin. By the way, really, the truth is that there was one sin that they had, right, which was a hatred between them. The sinat chinam. They hated Yosef. They were jealous of Yosef. We're going to get into that later on. It's not the time for that now. But anyway, the point is, Rabbi, that Reuven he sinned, and we already mentioned, right, that the same thing turned out with David HaMelech, right, that when his parents had the relations, that he was born from that. There was also, he was thinking about a different woman because he thought there was somebody else. They made a switch on him. So the same thing also turned out over there. That there was a switch. So because of that, David HaMelech also turned out to be blemished in a sense, even though he was very holy, he was very tzaddik. But there was a blemish there, and therefore he did what he did, right, with Bathsheba and the whole story over there. Right, it turned out also to do some kind of a immoral act to there. Right, this because of this. So we see from there that, by the way, just as an important point, that a person has to know that when he makes his children, when he's with his wife, depending on what he and she does together, that's what the child turns out. They make the child by what they're thinking, and what they're doing also. So because of that, you have to be careful, not to do things which can cause blemishes in the children. But now the interesting is like this, right? So getting back to what we're saying, the Ben Ish Chai, as we said, right? What does he say? He says that the first night you're allowed to have lights on. Right? What's the reason why? Because you can't impregnate her. You understand? So, but since Yaakov Avinu knew how to go around, so he was not allowed to have lights on. So therefore, it must have been dark. And therefore, that's the whole idea. So this is how the trick occurred, by the way. So in the morning, right, he comes out and it comes out to be Leah. But as we said, Rabotai, even though Laban Arami pulled this trick on Yaakov, it was all for the best anyway. A person always has to know that, right? If somebody pulls a trick on you, he steals something from you, right? He gives you, I don't want to get into this now. You guys are going to get or laugh, right? The used car salesman, he tells you one thing, gives you something else. You know what I'm talking about, right? So they're not this kind of thing, if it makes a trick, pulls a trick on you, gives you something else. But in the end, a person has to know that if something like this happens to him, it's all for the best. So the truth is that this was for the best that he got tricked like this. Why? Why for the best? Because he had to marry anyway all the 4 daughters of Laban. Right, this was the original plan. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to bring the 12 tribes from those daughters of Lavan, and therefore he had to marry all of them. So it was just a question of who he marries first. Is it going to be Leah first or Rachel first? In the end, he's going to have to marry all of them anyway. So it wasn't really such a big loss in the end. Everything came out.
So four beautiful women, and we got a junky car. And we're screwed. How is that for the best?
From Jimmy, you won't get a junky car. From Jimmy, go buy from Jimmy. Don't worry, he'll give you a good car.
What was the problem for Hashem to give him 12 boys and 1 girl from 1 woman?
It's a good question what you're asking. You see what he's saying? By the way, that was the original plan, you should know, what Shalom was saying. The original plan, as we said, you mentioned this before, that the 12 tribes should come from Rivka, just one woman. Like they have, today you go to these religious neighborhoods, Mea Sharim in Israel, or you go to Borough Park, they have each lady has 15 children. So there's no problem to do these kinds of things. There's not really an issue. But the problem was that Rivka, complained about her pregnancy, the pain, and because of that, the right to have the tribes was taken away from her, as we talked about that already before. And what happened was that also there's another thing, right? Which the truth is that there's something unique about this when you have 4 different women. Why is that? Because the truth is, right, the Chazal tell us that each of the tribes has a different characteristic, It's not like everybody's the same. Each one has its own spiritual characteristic, which we need in this world. The world cannot exist, they say, Chazal, right? The world cannot exist without the 12 tribes. If one of them is missing, the world will be destroyed. That's how important they are. You understand? So because of that, when you're talking about 4 women, that means that each one can take on a different characteristic according to the mother, the influence of the mother, you understand? All these things. So because of that, it was, probably the best thing that they should come out the way they did. Because as we already mentioned, right, that the 12 tribes came from them in the end. How many families came from them in the end? 70 families, right? They say the Chazal. We had 12 tribes, and from their children and grandchildren, eventually it was 70 people who went down to Mitzrayim, right? The sons of Yaakov, the children of Yaakov. Yeah. So why 70? Because this corresponds to the 70 nations of the world, right? There are 70 nations in the world, even though now if you go to the UN, you have about 140 over there today. But that's because they got subdivided, Yeah. This one got subdivided into 2 parts, subdivisions, So anyway, because of that, but the truth is, basically there's 70 nations. And corresponding to that should be left open, by the way, that door. There should be one coming. Corresponding to that, you have 70 families from Am Yisrael. And what does that mean? Each family of Am Yisrael corresponds to one nation of the world. That the 4 wives of Yaakov were all the daughters of Lavan. But there was 2 of them who were from the main wife of Lavan, who already died at this point, right? She was already dead. She was already deceased. And then he had also Pilegesh, right? Concubine he had, a girlfriend, whatever, something like that. So because of that, he also had 2 daughters from her. This was Bilhah and Zilpah, you understand? And because of that, they say, right, that the ones from the main wife were, Leah and Rachel, were spiritually in a higher level than the other 2. Even though the other 2 were also tzadkaniot, they were also tzaddikim. Those ladies, right? But these 2, Rachel and Leah, were like prophets. They had prophecy. They were on a very high level, these women. You understand? Like, immensely righteous, immensely spiritual. The other 2 were also righteous, but not on that level spiritually, like these 2, So each one had their own quality, and because of that, the children turned out, in accordance with that, different qualities as well, different levels also. Right? There was some of them were on a higher level, than the others, and so forth. But the truth is, they say, Chazal, by the way, that this was one of the things that Yaakov Avinu asked Kadosh Baruch Hu when he went. He left the house of his father, and he went to the house of Lavan. So he said, what, I'm going on condition. He said, he made a neder, right? He made a vow. The vow was that I'm going to give you 10% of whatever I make, right? As we said, but that's only if all my children turn out to be clean and righteous. We don't get any bad children. All of them are righteous children. All of them are tzaddikim. So what that means is that even though some of the mothers were not on the level of the other mothers, but all of them turned out to be tzaddikim, the children, right? Everyone was a tzaddik, everyone was a chacham, also a big rabbi. Each one was, like a perfect specimen, of humanity. Amazing, right? They were like the ultimate people, the ultimate Jews, the ultimate whatever, the ultimate specimen, the ultimate example of what a person is supposed to be was found in the tribes of Israel, right? Those 12 sons were all the greatest people. And they say, by the way, that there was, after the tribes were born, the 12 tribes from Yaakov Avinu, there wasn't even one generation where they had 10 people like that in one generation, great people. All the way through until the time, the generation of the Second Temple, where the Romans were ruling, and then we had the 10 martyrs that were killed, Rabbi Akiva and his friends. Right. So they say, right, Harugei Malchut, exactly. So they say that from that generation of the tribes until that generation of the Harugei Malchut, there wasn't one generation that had 10 great people like that in one generation.
It was Gilgul.
Exactly, they were Gilgul. Exactly. They were Gilgul. Yeah. Exactly. That's what it is. So we see from there, Rabbi, that these things are very lofty things. All these concepts.
Also,
right.
Another question. Maybe it's not so connected to what you said, but Yaakov Avinu, by the calculation with the age, he was over 80 something when he got married.
Yes.
And there, Rachel and Leah, by the calculation of the age, was maybe 12, 13.
They were kids, yeah.
So how such a big difference in the age?
Yeah, we already mentioned, right, that Rivka was 3 years old when she got married, and Yitzchak was 40, right?
When he took her home, but
married
he
her.
was waiting for her.
No, there was no waiting. They got married at 3 years old, So what happened was that 10 years, he had relations, because they say the Chazal, right, that at the 3 years old you can have relations with a woman. So because of that, right, he married her at the age of 3, and then when they got to the age of 13, he started to already pray for her, she should have children, because before that you couldn't have children anyway. So, till you're a teenager, you can't have children.
Yeah.
And so they had to wait another 10 years. They prayed for 10 years, so 20 years later they had children, right? After.
Yeah.
20 years of marriage. So the point is, Rabotai, that all these things are very lofty. But anyway, in those days, what it was like this, right? The children matured very fast. Meaning what? That a 6-year-old kid in those times was like an adult already in terms of strength and maturity. They were like very, very mature. You know, as we find already, you know, like that Menashe, the son of Yosef, was the head of the chief of staff in the court of Yosef, right? When he was 6 years old at that time, and he was very strong and very wise and everything. You know, he was ultimately strong and wise. Menashe, at that time, he was only 6 years old. So, you know, and we already mentioned, right? Shlomo Melech became king when he was 12 years old. Yeah, it's not so different. You know why? Because Shlomo Melech, right, when he was 12 years old, he already knew the whole Torah. He was judging the people. You know, he was judging on the Beit Din. He was out Beit Din. In those days, the king was also the judge. He was the Beit Din. Every king had a Beit Din, you know, court. So because of that, he was already judging out Beit Din. He was out Beit Din of the whole Malchut at the age of 12 years old. Can you imagine something like that? Right? Today we don't have things like this. It's very rare. Such a thing like this. It almost doesn't exist, right? This kind of maturity. And also, he built the Beit HaMikdash, right? And all these things he did when he was really young. Yeah.
King Jong-un, or whatever his name is.
The fat guy, the chubby guy.
He's 12 years old, right?
The chubby guy. Okay, so so let's go on, Rabbi. So what happens like this? Now Yaakov Avinu comes in the morning, right, after this whole trick was pulled, and he comes to Lavan, and he says, "What did you do to me?" He says, "You made a switch on me like this. You tricked me in the end, you know." So he says, "How could you do this?" You know. But by the way, in order to avoid this problem, we already said, right, that they give a simanim, right, that Yaakov gave simanim to Rachel. So the Chazal say, what was the simanim that he gave her? What kind of sign was there? You know, you can give any kind of sign, right? You can get all kinds of signs, right? You can say, right, so what was the siman? It says in the Kabbalah, you know what the siman was? That there's when they went to bed, she has to go to him and like touch his toes on the feet. Something like that, okay? So what do I care about this? What difference does it make to me? You know, playing around with somebody's toes, you know? What difference does it make? So they say, by the way, in the Kabbalah, that this is not just a regular siman. This is not just a regular, you know, sign. It's something very, very special. You know why? Because they say that according to the Kabbalah, when a person lives with his wife, right, has relations with his wife, so they say that, as we said, right, everything depends on what you're thinking at that time. How the children will turn out, it depends on what you're thinking, more or less. Yeah? So they say, by the way, that what happens is that the Yetzer Hara tries to get in that whole game. What does that mean? That when a person lives with his wife, the Yetzer Hara tries to make that intercourse like too physical, you know, too lusty. You understand? You know? So what happens is that a person has to diminish that. If he's too crazy, you know, too like animalistic, so that can also cause a blemish in the child. So therefore, what they do is, right, according to the Kabbalah, the Mikubalin, what they do is, they have this trick where they like play with the toes or whatever like that, and they do a certain thing with that, and this is supposed to bring down the lust and make it like lower, you know? So this is exactly what he passed over to him. Over to her, this sign. And this was, you know, according to the Kabbalah, to decrease the lust and have children who are, you know, very holy, right? Holier children.
The toes actually can be a very, very sexy thing. So,
okay, you won't get into that now.
I don't know how that would diminish,
right.
You know.
Yeah, there was also something that they said, by the way. There's something like they said something also there. You understand? Yeah. There was a whole thing. You understand? This whole trick.
Maybe back then they had different
Maybe
fetishes.
I was in the bathroom during that time.
Maybe back then they had different fetishes than playing.
Maybe you knock 3 times, I knock 5 times, that's the siman.
So Rabbi,
That's not it.
So what happened was that even though this, you know, he gave him simanim, and also he did another thing to ensure, by the way, to ensure that this shouldn't happen. You know what he did, right? When he told her, he said, "I want to marry your daughter, Rachel." So he didn't say, "I want to marry your daughter, Rachel." He didn't say it like that. He says, "I want to marry your younger daughter, Rachel." Why did he say that? What's the reason why he said it? You know why? Because he knew that Lavan is a trickster. So what he'll do is, you know, he'll switch the names, right? He'll call Leah Rachel. He'll do like a legal name change. And so go to court, you do a name change, you know. This one is Rachel, this one's Rachel. So because of that, he'll give her the wrong girl. So he knew that he was going to pull that trick also. So he said, I want your younger daughter, Rachel. And that's what he told her.
He didn't know that he was going to wind up with all four sisters.
They knew this, right? They knew.
He knew
There was
this.
prophecy, yeah. They knew that there was going to be 4 wives and 12 children. This was already known. Just a
But
matter of
yet
like
he was still
how you deal with it, because he was in
after
love
the
with Rachel.
prettiest one.
He was in love with Rachel. You understand? They was like totally infatuated, totally in love. So because of that, he wanted her
Go to
first.
the bathroom.
If I knew I
Understand?
was going to wind up with all 4 of them, I would have some patience.
What's the difference? Today, tomorrow.
By the way,
eventually-
we already mentioned, right, that he had to wait 7 years to get Rachel. He had to work 7 years. This is a long time. You understand? So now, Lavan, the whole trick was what? Lavan wanted to keep him there longer. Why? Because he saw he was being blessed by the presence of Yaakov there. The Jews always bring blessing to the country. Right? That's the same way it is today. And always everybody wants the Jews. They know if the Jews leave the country, the economy will fall down, right? The stock market will go down, everything will go down tubes. So because of that, Lavan saw that the blessing was coming from Yaakov. He was a sorcerer, you understand? He knew how to check these things. He had all kinds of meters, the blessing meter.
Also, you don't have the boys before.
Exactly. He didn't have boys. He became wealthy. He got everything. So what happened was that he wanted to keep them for another 7 years. So this is exactly why he pulled the trick like this. So he now tells him, he says, you know what? I'm sorry, but it's the reason I did this was because it's not the way to give the younger daughter before the older. It's not done like that in our place. It says that the custom is not like that. And by the way, you should know that what he said was true, because it's not proper to do it this way. The Chazal say that what he said was actually correct. So derech eretz, by the way, this is not halakha, what I'm telling you. A person, halachically speaking, he can marry his younger daughter first. If there is a need for that, She found a shidduch, she found, some kind of a, whatever, guy, and they like each other, and he's a good guy, and everything is good, everything is nice Jewish boy, so why not, you can give, but in derech eretz, zilaba, is that first, take the older one. That's the way it is. So Lavan came up with actually a good point over here. He says, what do you want? But what can I do? What can I do? It's not zilaba. So he's trying to tell him, you have to be cultured. In our place, it's our culture. We first give the older one. So he says, but wait a second. But I want your daughter Rachel. That's what I worked for. So he says, no problem. He says, work another 7 years. I'll give you also Rachel. He wants to keep him there for another 7 years. You understand? So what happened was that but this time it was not like the first time. What does that mean? The first time he had to first work 7 years and then get the wife. This time he says, I'll give you the wife after you do Shiva Brachot, 1 week, like Shiva Brachot. The parties after the wedding? Shiva Brachot, 1 week of partying. So he says, once you do Shiva Brachot, he says, then I'll give you Leah, I'll give you Rachel right away. But then you're going to have to work another 7 years. Stay with me over here, and work another 7 years. So you got him now, right? 14 years. Not bad, right? Not a bad deal. 14 years of Yaakov's presence over there, which gives him a lot of blessing and so forth and so on. So this is the way it works, Shabbatai. So Lavan pulled off this trick, by the way. As we said, there was also a different reason why he pulled off this trick. Lavan was such a smart guy. He knew, right, that marrying 4 sisters is not a good thing to do. What does that mean? That this could also cause blemishes, in the children. Why? Because a person is thinking about this sister and he's with this sister, all kinds of mixed thoughts over there can be, right? So because of that, he wanted to dafka give them 4 sisters in order that the children should come out blemished. That's what he wanted. He wanted to do damage to the children, you understand? He wanted to be like him, not like to be like Yaakov. He wanted to turn out like his uncle, their uncle, you know what I'm saying? This is also what he did. So he was very happy that he got Yaakov to actually take all these sisters. And what he did was what? When he took one sister, he gave the other one, from the pilegesh, from the concubine, he gave her as a maidservant for the main wife. So really the way together. And then when he took the other sister, when he took Rachel, he also got another concubine together with her. So altogether now he's got 2 wives and 2 concubines, and later on he also married the other 2, fully married them. But at this time it was just a pilegesh, it was just a concubine. Okay, let's go on. So now, right, the story gets a little bit more complicated, even, right? Even more interesting. It says, "Vayavo gam el Rachel, vayahav gam et Rachel mil'ah, vayavod imo od 7 shanim acherot." So he says, you know what? He comes to Rachel. What does that mean? Now he takes her after the Shiva Brachot is over. What happens is that right away, he loves Rachel a lot more than Leah. So Leah now goes into the back of the bus, and she's not anymore the focus of the whole marriage. So she feels bad, right? She's now like a second class wife, and Rachel was the main wife. So because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw, right, her affliction, that she was being afflicted like this. Can you imagine, it's like you have two sisters, and, she loves, and he loves, your sister more than you, and you gotta, sit there, watch them, love each other, and, you're just, sitting on the side, It's not a very nice thing. It can cause a lot of suffering, this kind of thing. It can definitely cause, and this is, by the way, one of the reasons why the Torah warns us not to marry sisters. Because of the rivalry that you're creating between them, You marry two sisters, one is always going to be jealous of the other, it's a natural thing, and the kid just kills them. It's like, it's like you're causing pain every day. Every day it's painful. And this is one of the reasons why a person should not marry sisters, right? When can he marry sisters? If one of them died, he can marry the other sister then, But as long as this one is alive, he cannot marry the other one. So, by the way, they say that, how bad it is? The jealousy between rivals, when you have two wives or more. The jealousy between them is so extreme that they actually want to, they get to the point where they want to kill somebody. They want to commit murder or some kind of thing, cause damage to this person. Well, so what does Gemara say about that? The Talmud says something amazing, right? Talmud says that, if you want to take two wives, one is not enough for you, right? One headache is not enough for you. You want to take two? By the way, they're a blessing. They're not a headache. I'm joking, but they're blessing the wives. But the truth is, right, that if they say if you want to take two, then might as well take three.
It's
better to take three, right? Why? So Gemara says. So what's the reason why? Gemara says something amazing, right? If the Gemara wouldn't say this, we wouldn't be able to say such a thing like that. So Gemara says that, why? Because if one of them plots, if two of them plot to kill you, the third one maybe will reveal the plot, and this way you can save your life.
It's there's really
you understand?
Two sides of the story. There's the truth.
Yeah.
And it makes
so
sense.
What does that mean? You know what that means? That the jealousy is so great between the rivals that they actually could plot to kill the husband as well. Because they start to hate him, Because they say, oh, he didn't do this for me, he did this for you, this jealousy, it builds up every day. And it builds up more and more and more and more. They say, take three wives, because the other one maybe will tell you that these two are plotting to kill you. So can you imagine that it can come to that also, that they can plot to kill?
They have that. What is it called? Polygamy, it's called?
Right, Mormon style.
They have that. There was a program where the women couldn't take it and they ran out from this...
yeah. So, by the way, this is also one of the reasons why Rabbeinu Gershom, right, who was about 1,000 years ago, he came and made a decree not to marry multiple wives.
Oh, really?
He was the one who made this decree. And since then, pretty much more or less, the Jews don't do that anymore. There were some exceptions also. There were.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but there was a lot of big rabbis that they said it's okay.
Right. The way it worked was like this. Right? Rabbeinu Gershom came.
Baba Sali say it's okay.
Rabbeinu Gershom came and made a takana. He said, don't marry multiple wives. Okay? So what happened was that this wasn't accepted by all the communities. It was accepted by many communities, especially the Ashkenazim. It was accepted by Ashkenazim. And many Sephardi communities did not accept this, right? Also the Temanim, the Yemenites, did not accept this. So what happened was that later on, though, even the communities that did not accept it, they took it on anyway later on. Over time, they took it on as a custom, So the truth is that if you now, you want to know how it is today, Shalom? That when you marry a woman today, right, most people don't, they sign the ketubah, right? They go, the witnesses sign the ketubah. You have to just agree to it, right? You have to commit to it. But what happens is that the ketubah, what does it say there in the back? You know what it says? In the Sephardi ketubah? The ones that they do in Israel, also here the ones that do here. I don't know all of them, but some of them. You know what it says there? That you're committing by this ketubah that you won't go out with any other woman, you won't date any other woman, you won't marry any other woman. So what does that mean? That today's ketubah is already telling you, buddy, you think you take another wife? Forget about it. You just give it up now. When you married this girl, you gave it up.
It's behind the ketubah?
Sometimes it's in the back. Sometimes, yeah. Because it's not really the main text of the ketubah. The main text of the ketubah is not. So they put it in the back, but you're also signed on that. You also agreed on that. So therefore, once a person, by the way, they also take you an oath. They do a shvuah on that. Shvuah Chamura it's called, right? You have to do like this, right? Like this with the rabbi. And this, when you do that, that means you're taking on this condition that you won't take any other wife as long as you're married to this one. So what does that mean? That most of the Sephardi communities today also took on this, right? This prohibition of marrying two wives, even though there were some exceptions, right? As you said, there were some exceptions. And by the way, if you do it the right way, there is a way to do it. There is a way to avoid that problem. But in general, right, they don't do it. And by the way, the question is, why? Like if the Torah allows you to have two wives, so then the question is, why not? Why make a decree not to have two wives? If the Torah allows me, what do you care? Let me enjoy what I want to enjoy.
Giving you permission for wives.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Even more, by the way. Even more.
More?
Yeah.
If you
take as many as you want. Yeah. They say, by the way, what you're talking about is what? That they say they recommend to you don't take more than 4. It's a recommendation. Hamlatza. Okay. They tell you, we recommend to you don't take more than 4. But if you really want, you can take more than 4. Mm-hmm. So the question is, why they make so much pains, take so much pains, this Rabbi Gershom, and these, this ketubah that we say, right, all these things, to, exclude this from Am Yisrael, not to have two wives anymore. What's the reason why? So the reason is by Rabbeinu Ravadia, he told us this is the reason. Because of the jealousy, that occurs between the two wives, they go crazy for each other. They're like, Achchomen. It becomes like, it could be a physical also, it could be a piss fight, all kinds of things. So what happens is that because of that, they say the man is affected by that because he's involved, it's like in the middle of this. You understand? Here we have one on this side, but one boxer on this side, we have one boxer on this side, and you're in the middle, right? The punches are going like this on your head, Bach, 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 bach. You understand? So a person can get hurt like that. It's not a joke. What does that mean? That there's curses and they curse you and they do all kinds. By the way, they say also, what does it say in the Pirkei Avot? It says in Pirkei Avot, Marbe Nashim. What does it say? Marbe Kishuf. What does that mean? So they tell you, right, that if you take a lot of wives, it says in Pirkei Avot, you're also what? You're going to have a lot of sorcery in your house, a lot of witchcraft. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What if I have two wives? It's going to be witchcraft. If I have one wife, one witchcraft, right? So what's the story? So the story is they say Rabotai that why witchcraft when you have a lot of wives? The reason is because they're jealous of each other and they put spells on each other to kill each other or whatever. You understand? They could also do it to you, as we said, right? Put a spell on you also. And by the way, this is very common. What the women do is they put a spell on the man in order to get him to fall in love. You understand? So this is also one of the things that they try to do. And this can cause a person damage, all kinds of things. It's because of all this crazy life, that is caused by having two wives. That's why, right, most of the communities now stopped doing this, taking two wives. Even though the Torah allows it to us, but practically speaking, right, oy vavoi, what happens to a person like that? He has two wives. His life becomes a living hell. Yep. Excuse the expression. Because they're all the time, machloket, fighting. This is the reason why I would say. So, nevertheless, though, even though all these things are true, right? But in those days, though, things were different, because what's the difference, by the way, between those days where they took a lot of wives and there was no, there was no issues, nobody came and said it's not allowed to do that. Now all of a sudden they come and say it's not allowed. What's the difference between us and them? Why them? For them it's allowed and for us it's not allowed. So the answer is, Rabotai, that in those days, the people, the men, the neshamot, were like much bigger. People were like bigger. What does that mean, bigger? That today, physically also they were stronger. It's true. They were much stronger in those days. Right? But also there was another thing, right? Which is what? That as time goes on, the neshamot are divided up into like small groups, small individual neshamot. They're sliced up. And because of that, today, right, a person is only a part of what he used to be. He used to be much bigger neshama. Complex neshama. Now he's like sliced up less and less and less and less and less. And because of that, when those big neshamot were around in those days, right, they needed to have more wives also because they had more inside of them. There was more complexity in them. Those people. Yeah. Today we're like more, like very, 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 very singled out. Everyone is singled out. Everybody's like very, very unique and like takes a little corner, takes a little profession, something in the side, and then he becomes that. So we're not so large like we used to be in those days. So because of that, we don't also need a lot of wives. We don't need the complexity of that, this whole thing. We're like more, focused on one particular point, more than being focused on the larger picture like they used to be in those days. So because of that, Rabbi, nowadays it's not recommended to do all these things. Obviously, it can be very harmful. But in those days, right, nevertheless, Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted that the 12 tribes should come from four mothers. That's what he wanted. So therefore, he made it this way because this was the best way to produce what he had to produce from those 12 tribes. So now the interesting is like this, right? You see from Kadosh Baruch Hu, by the way, how he is, what kind of midot he has, what kind of qualities he has, Kadosh Baruch Hu. That he now, who gets pregnant first over here? He has 4 wives. Yeah. Who gets pregnant first? Yeah. Leah, right? What's the reason, by the way? What does the pasuk tell us, right? Because she was senwa. Kadosh Baruch Hu saw that she was hated, meaning what? That he loved Rachel a lot more. He was spending a lot more time with her. He was living with her in her room, in her tent, a lot more than he was with Leah, right? This was the arrangement that he had. That the main wife was Rachel, and the other wives were just like once in a while, we can go with you, whatever, I have to go with you. But in general, right, his living quarters was with Rachel. So because of that, now Leah was in a position of being second rate and being pushed out like that, pushed out in the cold and feeling hated and not wanted. Kadosh Baruch Hu saw her affliction, and because of that, he made her have children first in order to reward her, to compensate her for her suffering. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Rachum v'Chanun, he's very merciful. So he sees that when a person is suffering, he gives them something else, to compensate them for their loss. What can you do? That's the way it is, right? Life is not easy in this world. What can you do? So because of that, he gave Leah children first in order to compensate her for her, unfortunate situation that she was in over here, right? Second-rate wife, second class. Sugbet, that's the way she was, it's not easy to do that. So it comes, right, and now, Vatelet ben v'tikra shemo Reuven. So she has the first child, and she calls him Reuven. So what's the reason why he called him this name? By the way, you should know. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that. But I just wanted to point out, that you should know, why is it the custom amongst the Jews to call our children these names, the tribes? Most of the names that we call are from the tribes, Question is why? What's the reason why we use those names as opposed to some other names, that you just make up some name? I know you got it from the internet, got a nice name from the internet, something. Why not use a different name? What's the reason why we use these names? Because they say, right, that our mothers were prophets, so the names that they gave these children were prophetically inspired, and because of that, they have a very good mazal, they have a good quality, these names. And therefore, a person should always try to call, right, and these names, like, not only, by the way, from the tribes, but they say, right, a person should always prefer to take a name from the Tanakh, from the Bible, or from the Chumash, or from the Navi, or Ketuvim. Why? Because all the names that are mentioned there are all good, very good quality names, and they can give you good qualities for your children as well. They have a good mazal, they have a good quality, and because of that, a person should always prefer to take names like that than to make up some new kakamemi name, from the sky, got some name, it calls them like, sun, calls them like Sunkist, like, why are you calling your child Sunkist? Are you crazy? Well, you think you just make up any name, and call them like any name? You should call them a name from the Bible. That's the way it is, So because of that, all these names that they called the children, the tribes, were all prophetically inspired. So these names are very, very great, and a person should always prefer to use them than to use a regular, some crazy name. Like now in Israel, they have a moda, new fashion over there. They're calling all kinds of like silly names to people, to children, all kinds of nutty names. And also, by the way, another thing that they're doing, which is very bad, they're calling names of Rasha, sometimes the children, like Nimrod, and Esav, all these kinds of things. It's a very good question when you're asking, by the way. A very good question. So the truth is that you can call one name, you can call 2 names. You can do whatever you want. There are many big tzaddikim who had 2 names. There are also ones who had 1 name, and this is all fine. You can, as long as the names are good.
The Sfaradim, if you see, they prefer to give 1 name.
Not always, by the way.
It's more Ashkenazim.
You're right. Nowadays, it's more Ashkenazim they do. But the truth is, right, you also find some big tzaddikim, Sfaradim, right? Like the Chida. He had like 4 names, this guy. Understand?
Fine, you said
Right, exactly. So you see, right, that this is fine. You know, a person can call two names. And by the way, the reason why they do it, you know why, right? The Ashkenazim, they call two names. This is like to make a pshat, to make a compromise. Why? Because this one wants to call this, right? This his grandfather. This one wants to call his father, right? So in order to make a compromise, they use two names. There should be shalom, you know, make shalom between the parties, right? And there should be no fighting between them. So they use two names because of that. That's what they do with my grandson now, you know. My grandson, who was born about 8 months ago, so there was like they were thinking what to call him, you know. So my father's name is Daniel, you know. My father, you know, they used to call him Samson, but his real name was Daniel. So Samson was like a nickname, you know, whatever. So and his on the other side, the father's name was Moshe, you know. He's still alive, Baruch Hashem. Hashem should give him long life. So they were thinking, you know, what to call him, Moshe or Daniel, you know, this and that, whatever. They're both good names, Baruch Hashem. They're both from the Tanakh. Very good names, you know, nothing wrong with them. So in the end, what they did was they called them both names. Daniel Moshe, that's what they called them, you know. So this way you can make a compromise, you understand? Now, the truth is that when you call two names, usually the first name sticks and the second one goes down, you know, like, that's not really used so much. You understand? So anyway, in the end now we call him Daniel, you know, this boy, you know. We call him Daniel. Because, yeah.
I'm a grandfather.
It's a long story. Okay, he'll get to us. Baruch Hashem. I'll show you pictures, right? Okay. I have pictures. Okay. So anyway, Otai, calling two names is not a problem. But as long as they're two good names, you know, two good solid names, you can call two names, no problem. You have no issues with that. You want to make a compromise, you know, make Oseh Shalom in our mouth, right? We are Oseh Shalom Aleinu. That's the way it is. So Rabbi, why did she call her this name, Reuven? By the way, we're going too long. Should we stop? We'll stop. I'll just make this point. We'll stop here. So, right, it says, right, Ki amra ra'a Adonai be'oni ki ata yevani ishi. So it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw my affliction, right? Ra'a, re'u is this notion of ra'a, as he saw. Right? So he saw my affliction, and he and he gave me a son, right? Reuven, right? So he called him Reuven. But by the way, the Chazal say there's something deeper over here in this name, right? Besides this, seeing the affliction, they say that Reuven, as we said, right? He was born blemished a little bit. You know, he was the only one of the tribe that sinned. So Leah, with her Ruach HaKodesh, she knew that Reuven was not perfect. He had a little bit of a blemish, you understand? But nevertheless, you know, even though he was a little bit blemished, Reuven, but he was nevertheless a tzaddik. He became a Baal Tshuva, right? After he did the sin that he did Tshuva, right? And he atoned for himself and became one of the tribes, you know, tzaddik. So Leah knew with Ruach HaKodesh that this episode was going to occur. And Reuven was going to sin. So what was she trying to say when she called him the name Reuven? You know, the Chazal say like this, right? The Midrash says, right? Reuven, see, Ben, the difference between my son Reuven, right, and Esav. Even though they both sinned, right? Esav also sinned, and Reuven, my son, will also do some kind of a sin. So, but she said, you know, see the difference between them. I'm very proud of my son, even though he's going to do a sin, but he's going to do tshuva, right? He's going to become a tzaddik. Not like Esav, who became a rasha and never did tshuva. You understand? So because of that, she wanted to like brag as if, you know, my son, you know, Reuven, see the difference between him, you know, who sins, and Esav who sins. So she wanted to, you know, and by the way, the reason why she was so proud of this, you know, that the difference between Esav and Reuven, you know why? Because really they say, the Chazal, that she was really destined to be the wife of Esav, you know, Leah. Because they were saying, right, that Lavan has two daughters, and Yitzchak has two sons, right, Esav and Yaakov. So the older will marry the older one, and the younger will marry the older one. So what does that mean? That really Leah was supposed to marry Esav, right? So, by the way, Esav was also supposed to be a tzaddik, right? He was supposed to be a big tzaddik, but he failed. He didn't live up to his expectations. So because of that, Leah saw, right, that Esav was a rasha. He was a big rasha. So she was crying all the time, right? They say she was crying day and night. Why? I'm going to have to marry this rasha, this wicked man, this gangster. I have to marry this killer. This is going to be my lot, but I'm a righteous woman. I'm a good woman. So because of that, she was crying all the time, right? And because they say because of the crying that she did, right? The Kadosh Baruch Hu changed her mazal and took her away from marrying Esav, and now she was zocher to marry Yaakov. So we see from there, Rabbi, that a person who has a bad decree, you know, he can change it by praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and crying, and all these kind of, she was able to change the decree by crying. So they say this is the reason why now we understand, right? Why was she so proud that her son turned out to be not like Esav? Because she was destined to be with gold Esav. But because of her strong conviction, and her tears, Kadosh Baruch Hu brought her into a different place, right? A place of tzaddikim, a place of righteousness, a place of holiness, and this is the reason why she was so happy that there was a difference between Reuven. See the difference between my son and Esav. Chazak u'baruch. God light it up. God bless you.